What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video, and I'm still waiting on the reports for training camp today to come out from the New York Giants, and I'll definitely give my opinion on that and report on it if and when it comes at a reasonable hour. Otherwise, I'll just have a video up tomorrow to talk about training camp, some of the standouts today. I did read that Sterling Shepard had a pretty good day, but I'm waiting for everything to come out, so maybe I could give a report on that later. But while I was waiting, some news came out. The New York Giants did, in fact, make a roster move at the cornerback position. Now, of course, the New York Giants had brought in Cockrell, a guy that a lot of New York Giants fans were excited about, myself included. He, of course, had played opposite James Bradberry with the Carolina Panthers and had a pretty strong year last year. And I thought it was a good move for the New York Giants, being that they're so thin at that position. You got a bunch of rookies. You bring in a veteran who has played in New York before. Apparently, it didn't work out with the contract, so Cockrell moved on. And now the New York Giants have went out there and brought in another cornerback, but not necessarily the cornerback that any of us desired. Of course, there were a lot of other, more prominent names out there, Kirkpatrick being one, Logan Ryan, a number of others. I've talked about them. 4 or 5 other veterans that have had some success in the league, Carr, so on and so forth. The New York Giants decide to sign Brandon Williams. And I didn't know much about him. I had to do some research. He's a former third-round pick in 2016 out of Texas A&M. Had a very good combine. He ran a 4.37 40, which is probably why he was drafted in the third round and was thought to be a guy with some upside. Started his rookie year, but he only started 3 games opposite Patrick Peterson, and I'm sure he got, picked on there, and then they brought him back to the bench, and he never got to start since. He's been a bench player. He's got about 40 career tackles, so he really hasn't had that good of an NFL career. And on top of that, Brandon Williams last year suffered an injury, and he didn't play the entire season. He had some kind of injury to his shoulder. One thing I will make note of, when I think I read an article by, I think it was Trina on Sports Illustrated. She did say that he does have over 700 career snaps, I think, in the special teams department. So, or maybe when you combine, on the field and special teams, whatever it is. But he's thought to be a pretty good special teams contributor. So maybe Joe Judge, of course, we know he has an eye for special teams, views Brandon Williams in that aspect. But do I view Brandon Williams as a potential starter day one for the New York Giants on the outside? Well, I'll say this. If he is, New York Giants could be in a lot of trouble. Yes, he's a former third-round pick, and yes, I suppose he has some athletic upside. But the fact that he couldn't start for the Arizona Cardinals for 4 years tells you something there. Don't expect him to be the starter for the Giants. He may be a camp body, or maybe, like I said, he does compete in camp and get a job due to his special teams contributions. But I don't think he'll be starting opposite James Bradberry when we suit up against the Pittsburgh Steelers week 1. And like I said, if he is, we could be in for a long day. It's still a huge question mark for the New York Giants as to who that will be. At this point in time, don't expect it to be a veteran that the New York Giants will bring in off the scrap heap. Of course, like I talked about when they brought in Cockrell, they had an argument as to the contract. They couldn't come on an agreement there, which means they're looking for cheap alternatives to provide depth at that position and maybe some veteran leadership. I don't even know if Brandon Williams provides any of that. I'm sure he's going to come for pennies on the dollar. But you're not going to bring in any prominent cornerbacks. And even if the New York Giants bring in somebody after the final cuts, when teams get down to 53 players, it's only going to be a week or so before the season, a season in which you didn't have preseason games. And the New York Giants don't run the simplest defense to learn, rather. I don't really see them bringing somebody in and them being able to be a day one starter. So at this point in time, the New York Giants, in my opinion, are going to be, somebody that was already on the roster, not named Brandon Williams, will be starting opposite James Bradberry. Your guess is as good as mine, but at this point, I would say Love is the overwhelming favorite. I don't look for Brandon Williams, to take that job from him. Maybe Corey Ballantyne, of course, we've heard about him in camp. He's got some good write-ups. Maybe he gets the opportunity on the outside. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out. People have talked about Darnay Holmes, but he's worked exclusively in the slot. So the Giants bring in Brandon Williams, and at this point, I view it probably more so as a special teams contributor. Maybe they look at him as a guy that could be a gunner. Is that possible? I'm not 100% sure if he played that well at Arizona, but I did read that he did do well in the special teams department. So maybe that's the case here, as they did lose Cody Core. I'm just trying to think of some reasons why they would have brought him in, but I don't think they brought him in to start opposite James Bradberry. The guy's played 3 games in his entire career. He's got under 40 career tackles, which is probably as much experience as any other cornerback on a roster not named James Bradberry, but I don't expect Brandon Williams to start. It's just another body for the New York Giants to throw out there at camp and to compete to make the final 53. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.